Welcome to Wild and Weird Radio, a Wild and Weird West Virginia podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Joe Perdue. Along with me today, we have Wayne Barnes.
Hey.
And Ron Lanham.
Hey, we're all here, right? So
we're all
let's
here.
Get this thing started, man. Let's get it all started.
So today we're covering Mothman fact and fiction, or fact versus fiction. However you want to say it. Really, honestly, I think it's more fact versus fiction, right?
I think it's fact versus fiction is what we're going to really go on this thing, yeah, because there's a lot of fiction when it comes to Mothman, isn't there?
That is the truth. And man, if you follow on any of those Mothman threads on Reddit or any of the Mothman threads that you see pop up from time to time on some of the cryptozoological sites, I have no idea where some of these people are getting their information.
I think they're getting it from the bottom of a box of cereal.
They very well could be, and they're not smart enough to flip it upside down and open it from the bottom first.
So let's flip this box. Let's just
Pretty
flip this
much.
box open and upside down and open it up and see what's inside. So in a couple of minutes, we're going to dive into this thing deep and go crazy with it. But before that, let's take a little short break, and we'll be right back.
All right, welcome back, everybody. We're getting ready to dive into this Mothman fact versus fiction with two red eyes first, I guess.
I don't know what that
All
means,
right.
but it's kind of right.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation out there with Mothman. I really honestly think I have an idea where it started with, and it just rabbit trailed from there. But a lot of these online sites and different, Wikipedia and Reddit and all these different things, they have so much conflicting evidence and conflicting stories of what Mothman is, how the story really went, and have it tied into so many other different weird things, right?
Yeah, it gets kind of weird. Wikipedia, I'll give them a little bit of credit. They actually have a little bit more truth in there. But some of this stuff is just absolutely crazy. And frankly, I find it offensive.
And somehow a lot of it gets published. That's the crazier part.
Well, that's the offensive part to me. So,
So what is the first thing, if we're diving into Mothman, fact and fiction, let's start off with a brief background.
Okay. Yeah, let's start off with a brief background.
And we're going to go, this is fact, right?
Sure.
This is fact. No speculation. This is the very first account was on November 12th, 1966.
Mm-hmm.
It happened in Clendenin, West Virginia, not Point Pleasant. And grave diggers were the ones that seen this flying humanoid that was pretty low flying. And it was the very first known sighting of what we now call Mothman.
Right. At the time, it was not called Mothman. At the time, it was a winged humanoid that was flying over. Now, after that is when we get the very famous Scarberry mallet sighting. And that's the one that everyone knows. Again, fact. That's fact. November 15th, 1966. That's fact. That is the date that the creature that we know as Mothman today was officially first sighted and actually made the news.
And it looks nothing like a moth.
Oh, it absolutely looks nothing like a moth. So I guess that'll be our first, fact versus fiction thing. Is Mothman actually a moth and a man? No, he is not. Or it is not, rather. We should say that, I think, more appropriately, as we do not know what the creature was. It was actually called a UFO bird, flying something.
Yeah, the UFO bird was probably my favorite.
Yeah, UFO bird. It's probably my favorite of the headlines as well. But yeah, there's all these crazy things that we run into. We run into, the next one, which is Mothman and Indrid Cold are the same thing. No.
Yeah.
No. This one hurts me.
Literally, all you have to do is pick up a book that's not the Mothman prophecies.
Right.
And it will tell you they're not.
Right. Because, John Keel is the one who actually put that into the book. And by the way, for the record, people, John Keel did not believe Woodrow Derenberger's story at all.
At all.
So it was put into there for, who knows what reason you put it in there. I guess for a little drama. But unfortunately, like, everything else, they ran with this and pop culture scooped it up. And all of a sudden, here's Indrid Cold. He's obviously the Mothman. No. Completely separate thing. And we will do an Indrid Cold special one day because he is one of my favorite West Virginia wild and weird legends.
Absolutely. But Indrid Cold and a Mothman do have a tie-in together. So they're, even though they're separate things, they both had a mysterious shadow organization that was connected to each of them. And
That's
that would
true.
be the Men in Black.
Absolutely.
And that is true.
That is the fact.
That is a fact. Yes, absolutely.
The only connection they had, though, was the Men in Black.
They occurred in the same year. And one was about 12 days apart. But, other than that, that's it, guys. That's the only fact that we can say is a fact. Until someone can come forward and give us more information on that, we're leaving it right there.
Yeah. Until somebody comes up and says, this one time I saw Indrid Cold standing off in a street by himself, and his eyes turned red. And wings sprouted out of his back.
Yeah, exactly. We'll buy it then, okay? But I have not heard such witness. I'm sure we will now, but we have not.
Oh
heard
yeah,
such
we just created our own urban legend.
We just did that, didn't we?
And you want to know why this stuff runs wild and goes down different trails?
Yeah.
Right?
That's exactly why.
Right, exactly. Created our own future we were trying to avoid. Anyway,
now, there have
what's the next one?
There have been similar sightings worldwide. This is West Virginia. We do have the Mothman. It's very near and dear to wild and weird West Virginia's heart. But there are similar sightings that spread around the world.
But wait a minute, we didn't cover one thing.
What's that?
One little thing that bothers me, and it's because when I was first learning about Mothman, this was something that kind of kept getting put in my ear, and that I kept reading, and obviously it was incorrect, or so I feel. And after talking to you two, I really feel that way, and that is the bridge in Mothman.
That's a good one, actually. We have to go there.
That is a good one.
I'm going to take this one because first of all, I'm going to go into Mothman with you guys. I was one of those people who basically thought, well, Mothman was a thing that happened in a time, and that was it. There were no more Mothman sightings after the bridge collapse because I believed everything that I read. Okay. It was later when we started diving a little deeper into this, a little bit more research on Mothman for reasons I will go into much later, that I came across other stories, and, surprise, surprise, there it was. There's a lot of people who say Mothman was sighted on the bridge the day that it collapsed. In the bridge, I'm talking about the Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant. But I thought, well, no, of course, that's just an urban legend. That's not true. Lo and behold, shortly after the formation of wild and weird West Virginia, we met someone who actually came forward and said, I was on the bridge 15 minutes before it collapsed. She was a little girl coming across the bridge, and she, in her words, this thing appears, follows the car, and tries to basically get them off the bridge. Now, she saw it as something of a good nature, that it was trying to warn people away from the bridge. So here we go with that, right? And I'm thinking, well, and like I've said before,
versus villain.
Yeah. So like I've said before, I'm not one of those people who, in my opinion, is chiseled in stone. It is not. And I don't believe that any good researcher is, and I don't believe that anyone who has critical thinking could be, because you have to be able to adjust. All those little scenarios and models in your head have to have data. And every time I get a little data, I change it. And well, that changed me, because it's like, well, okay, why not? So I actually have a witness now who came forward and said this. So I can't just throw that out, and I will not just throw it out. Because she was very credible.
It made you a better investigator is what it did, Ron.
Well, it made me ask, that's kind of how, I approach these things. We can't let our belief systems be so concrete that they stick us down and stifle us into these, corners where we have to say, oh, well, this is absolutely black and white. No, there are shades of gray. And
open
you
mind.
have to learn, yes, keep an open mind. So moving on from that, I have to say plausible. I think it's very plausible that it was on the bridge that day. Do I think it caused the collapse? No, I do not.
Yeah, it wasn't down there rattling a bolt.
I have not found any evidence to that at all. Okay.
But that's one of the first things that it seems like that when you talk to people that know very little about it, they put those two things together and say, "Oh yeah, that was the thing that made the bridge collapse." I mean, I've heard it with people, and you just kind of hang your head and go, "No."
It is one of the most prevalent bad theories out there.
Myth.
And we'd like to put that one to rest.
Yeah.
Because that is not the case. And,
well, we don't. We don't have any evidence whatsoever that Mothman caused that bridge to collapse. Okay. We do have a witness who says that it was there, but she felt it was warning people off the bridge. So there's that. And we let people make up their own mind on that. But in our opinion, no, didn't cause the bridge to collapse.
So Mothman sightings around the world.
Boy, there have been a few, hasn't there?
There have been.
And some made up ones.
one of the most noted ones was the Fukushima. And I think oldest one was the Friedberg, Germany Shrieker.
That's not old. That one actually was in the 70s.
Well, I'm saying the oldest as far as outside of the United States. It's the oldest worldwide sighting.
I believe so, unless you go into the whole, ancient context and you pull up some of these images of
all the Sumerian images.
Yes. And I can't say no because I don't know. Okay. It's another one of those things where more data is needed. Winged creatures. Yeah, sure. But doesn't really quite fit the Mothman's description to me. But the Freebird Shrieker, yeah, absolutely fits the Mothman sighting, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
This thing was, and again, to back up with the, the Harbinger hero kind of thing, this thing appears September 10th, 1978, in mine in Freiburg, Germany. These miners are going down into this, getting ready to go into the mine on their shift, when all of a sudden, they're heading that way to the mine, and they see this thing standing out in front of the mine.
Yeah, it's blocking the entrance.
Yeah, it's blocking the entrance completely. And all of a sudden, it lets out a shriek and into the sky, and these guys just drop their tools and run. They report.
I would be dropping more than my tools if I saw that. I'm
sure they did drop more than their tools, but that's not in the actual report. But yeah, I'm pretty sure they were. They apparently reported to the foreman, and within what was it? I can't remember how long it was. This is all from kind of memory. The mine collapsed several hours later.
Yeah, there was a mine collapse, and it
killed
a bunch of people.
And they would have been.
It killed several. Yes.
Yeah, they would have been in there. Okay, so they attribute this thing to saving their lives. Okay. And basically they said yes, it prevented their deaths, and they attribute it to saving their lives. Now, what's interesting about that one? I'm looking this up. I think it was 21 workers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there were 21 workers.
21 workers
that were saved by the monster.
No. Six of the 21 were saved.
6 of the 21.
So only those 6.
6 out of the 21.
Yes, it was only those 6. So only the 6 were saved, and out of those workers, and the rest died in the collapse. That's a fact. Okay, that was in 1978. What else did you have? You had Chernobyl, right?
Well, we have Chernobyl, but that was a gift that was given to us by the lovely Mothman Prophecies movie.
Again, let's go into that really quick, okay, and why that happened. Because this is the same thing that happened with the book, right? With Indrid. So
anything that Kill touched or Kill's is based on Kill's work is just hurts me.
It kind of has a tendency to hurt rather than help. Yeah.
Yep.
So that was with the movie though. So we can't really blame Kill. He was, no longer with us at that point, right?
Yeah, it was just loosely inspired.
Yeah. So, it was based on that. That's where you see the origin from the whole Chernobyl thing. In other words, that is false. It didn't happen as far as we know.
And my favorite part about the origin in the Mothman Prophecies is that it says that there were hundreds of sightings around Chernobyl the year the pump went down, and that the Mothman's name had this root in the Ukrainian language, but that's a big negative. It actually, the Mothman's root is birthed literally out of Batman's fame,
out of a comic book.
Yeah, because Batman was super popular around the time that the Mothman sightings began, and the newspaper released the title because they were trying to, they played with different headings like bird person, UFO bird, flying man, winged man. None of them sounded right.
And let's be real, back in, just like now, you have to have that particular headline, don't you? The one that grabs you.
You got to have the one that grabs you. So the newspaper went with Mothman because it sounded spectacular. It sounded super, and it gave this this pop culture vibe that guess what? Started selling newspapers.
Oh yeah.
Well,
started
you know what
was
big and on TV and prevalent right during them years, right? Batman, Adam West Batman on TV.
Yes.
Yeah. That's where it came from. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
It derived out of the popularity of that. And one of the things that I have to say that
Thank you,
I
Adam
really do
West.
appreciate
Yes, thank you, Adam
because
West.
of this is it gave me one of my favorite shirts on the planet, which is the old Batman detective era Batman logo, but instead it says Mothman and it has the big red eyes.
Yeah.
That's my favorite shirt that I own. I think it's cryptid related, so I can't be too terribly upset because it's a really cool shirt.
Yeah, that's a really good shirt. What else do we have on our list of?
Did we touch on the Owlman?
We didn't.
Well, no, we'll go back to Owlman in just a second because there is a faint hint of reality that goes into the Mothman being around the Chernobyl site. But it starts off, this is kind of like one of those creepypasta sort of birthed things where it was the Blackbird of Chernobyl. Nobody really knows where the story came from. It was originally spawned out of the Mothman prophecies because the oldest article that talks about the Blackbird of Chernobyl was published in 2005. So we're all kind of led to believe that it was sort of spurned on by the movie that was released of the Mothman prophecies. So it's one of those things where you just gotta kind of look at it and be like, but really?
Yeah. I'm going to go with that.
So there's so much controversy surrounding the entire Chernobyl thing. Generally, here with Wild and Weird Radio, I think the consensus is we dismiss the Chernobyl Mothman, aka Blackbird of Chernobyl.
Yeah, I totally dismiss it.
Yes,
now, with what Wayne said, Owlman.
Yeah, I don't dismiss this at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
This to me fits Mothman again.
And there was actually a flap of sightings. Not to be a pun there, but
flap. I got what you did there. You flap. Yeah, that's funny.
But
Smooth.
there was a flap of sightings that occurred around Owlman, and it actually does have some roots, and the Owlman sightings do seem to be legitimate.
And where were they?
Well, these were in the UK.
They took place in the UK.
Yeah. This was in 76, right? 1976.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just going to go ahead and apologize to the Maunanians, if I'm pronouncing your town right, the Owlman of Maunan or Monan.
Absolutely murdering your language.
So you Maunanians that may be listening, forgive me.
Oh, jeez. Yeah. Well, anyway.
Yeah, we apologize.
We're not very good like that.
The Owlman actually was featured though with an Animal Planet mockumentary called Lost Tapes, and the Discovery Channel after the airing of this mockumentary, because Animal Planet is owned by Discovery TV. After the Lost Tapes aired, that was it. they put the kibosh on all of these mockumentaries that they were coming out with, because
I remember one about a mermaid, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
they did mermaids.
I remember that. I remember that. Yeah.
They did a mermaid mockumentary that, by God, it was good.
It caused a lot of mermaid flaps.
Mm-hmm.
It really did.
Yeah, it brought mermaids.
And the funny thing was, in the beginning of the show, it said this is not a real documentary.
Yeah, it was good.
People still ate it up, but it was done very well. Like, it's actually a very entertaining series.
Yeah.
And then they did one on a Megalodon, and they did one on this Lost Tapes. And after Lost Tapes, there was such a big issue with because they were also, this was around the same time the Animal Planet was running Finding Bigfoot, and apparently somebody at Discovery TV is a believer in Bigfoot and felt that this was taking away credibility from the shows that they were featuring that featured Sasquatch. So they put the kibosh on all these mockumentaries. But that doesn't discredit any of the sightings that happened prior to this mockumentary that was made, because the Owlman actually did have some fairly strong roots, especially in, like I said, Monan. I think I'm going to go with Monan.
It doesn't get any better when you just keep saying it differently.
No, it really doesn't. It actually makes you sound more insane.
And in Cornwall. And it doesn't take away from any of those sightings, because those predated this mockumentary by a very long time.
But what's curious about that is there's no impending or after disaster or anything that there was no anything that I've noticed with that compared to all of the sightings and reports of any of the Mothman. And it drives me nuts, just me personally, that, West Virginia's got Mothman. Everybody else come up with your own name.
Yeah. Well, they kind of did. They had the Owlman. So they're like, you know what? But again, a 6 to 7 foot tall creature with feathers or fur, silver gray, brownish in color, and guess what? Glowing red eyes.
Yeah, but there's no disaster associated with that.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
No. And then back stateside, we had the Chicago Mothman sightings and the Lake Michigan Mothman sightings. And
that's right.
Those are the most current. And their Mothman sightings, to me, when I really read up on them and look at them, they don't really seem like Mothman to me. The sightings more of just a flying humanoid. None of them really talk about, this the creature that was described during the Point Pleasant flap.
Right. And, again, then we come back to it, don't we? It's like, so where did it begin? Where did the Mothman, the actual Mothman description of the creature begin? And I have to say, it had to be Point Pleasant. It really does seem to me that there was nothing before that really was public, I should say. I don't mean, in these articles that came out now or something that they found, several years later. I mean, prior to Point Pleasant, that, 1966, 67 timeframe, I don't think there was anything before that I can actually find. Now we can, obviously, we can look back and say, oh, well, so-and-so, but you see, they said, it was reported, but it was only reported in an article that was, 1970s, right? So is there anything before that? Are all these current cases just based off of that one event? I don't know.
So there is a particular theory behind Mothman that Ron and I more subscribe to, where there was this more of a spectral, extra-dimensional type being. And then there's another theory that Wayne kind of buys into and thinks is probably the most likely case of this, which was the secret military experiments.
Yeah. A lot of people actually buy into that, and it's been made a little bit more prevalent lately and brought into the public eye and into pop culture's eye because of a recent, what was it? Was it Discovery or is it History Channel?
Travel
I don't
Channel.
remember. Travel Channel. Sorry, it was one of those guys. I'm sorry. But our good friend Dave Spinks was on there, and he had a little bit of evidence that kind of pointed to some weird stuff that was going on in that area, which we knew that the TNT area was, it was a Department of Defense kind of thing going on. But there were some secret zones in there, allegedly, and which are now pretty much underwater from what I understand. And they went into that saying basically that this could have been some kind of a military experiment of a flying suit of some sort. I don't think it was a suit, guys. I mean, that's a nice plausible explanation for could it be? Sure, it could be.
Well, the behind the suit story, I actually did some research into that a few years back, and it's loosely plausible because the military was testing the what we now call the wingsuits, where when you jump out of a high altitude aircraft, it's basically like you're a giant flying squirrel. They were testing those back then, but if you look at the account that occurred with the speeding vehicle leaving the TNT area, yes, a wingsuit could have reached those speeds. Would an individual have survived landing without popping your parachute?
I believe that the new theory is that it wasn't just a wingsuit. Now they're saying it was a jetpack. They were testing jetpacks for the military.
So,
but on that, how do you then explain the other parts of that encounter with the scratches on top of the car?
Oh, I totally can't. No one can.
But that's how.
But
wasn't there an account where
I have an answer, guys?
That's how debunkers
I figured it out.
It
was the Rocketeer.
Okay, there it is. I'm good with that. Yep, that was it.
I believe, and it's weird. I mean, I didn't. You all seen my drawing. I don't believe that drawing. I just put stuff together. I mean, that's really what I feel more towards that it looks like, almost like some kind of human. I know it sounds movie-ish, but where they did an experiment, trying to make a super soldier type deal.
Yeah.
And it almost looks the humanoid, you get that, but it almost has that demon feel to it,
Right.
Because you want to scare. War is about, as Joe knows, he's been in the military, it's about scaring your enemy.
Sure, you want a psychological, aspect to your weapon, and what better psychological aspect could you have than a winged demon?
Yeah, I did mine that way for a reason, and I truly believe if it's anything, it's something like that, because you know how our government is. I mean, not trying to get into conspiracy theories, but our government does a lot of shady things that you don't find out for 100 years later.
Most governments do, actually. That's how they win wars. And they prevent wars that way, too. And people don't seem to understand that sometimes. But, that's a plausible thing, too. I won't discredit or debunk that. But here's the deal. What I saw wasn't a wingsuit, and it wasn't, it wasn't a flying whatever. This thing wasn't quite there. So I don't know. And a lot of
Ron,
people...
You just mentioned this thing that you saw.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you saw.
Well, my sighting took place, almost 20 years ago. Well, you're going to hear more of it later. We're going to touch on it right now, but because it's prevalent to this and it's kind of important. What I saw was I'm not even sure to this day. It was physical, yet not physical. In the upper body, more physical. In the lower body, not very physical. I mean, almost like you could kind of see it shifting, like phasing, sort of. Almost like you have when you're looking at gas through the air. When you see that kind of a look, that's what it kind of looked like. Gray creature being whatever in the middle of a road, and that stands up, puts its wings out or arms out, whatever they were. I'm still not convinced at this point, and puts them down one swift movement and shoots straight up. The movement, it wasn't normal. the appearance of it, that wasn't normal. And just like John in our interview last week, who was talking about, that fight or flight thing, the same thing. I believe that was probably the most scared I've ever been on anything that I've ever seen. And I remember hitting the gas pedal and just getting out there as fast as I could. Faster the better. I think we were half a mile down the road, and it was to that point where I kind of lit up off the gas and was okay with it. But never really talked about it until
So you're alone?
Years and years later. No,
Okay.
my wife was with me on that one. She doesn't really talk about that. We compared notes, and that was pretty much all there was to that. But I never considered that to be Mothman. I'll be flat out with you 100%. I never considered that to be Mothman. Even after I started early interview, but when I started researching Mothman, I never really considered that as Mothman. And I considered it as this thing that my family had seen, because there was this story that my mom had seen this gray ghost type thing that kind of went up in the air and did the same thing. Well, this, passed down, throughout our whole family pretty much. And it was almost, I don't know, maybe a quarter of a mile from where they had their initial sighting is where I saw this thing. Where we saw this thing, we came around the road, it's not late at night, and headlights hit it, and there it is in the road. And at first I thought, wow, it's a bird, and then it stands up. It's not a bird. There's nothing that looks like that. And boom, gone. But we never thought much about really investigating any further at that time. And I just thought, oh, we saw that ghost or whatever it was, that Mom had seen years ago, And I'm doing some deeper research in Mothman, because Mothman, big glowing red eyes, right? Not always. Some of the witnesses describe absolutely no eyes, and that's exactly what I had seen. And it wasn't quite physical. Another description that I found, and I didn't really consider it to be a possibility that it was Mothman until I think we were at, what was it, Joe? Creature Weekend, or no, not Creature Weekend. It was Ohio Bigfoot. One of the original ones, had this thing had chased, not the Scarberries. This was someone later. Comes up and says, "Oh, that's exactly what I had seen, and that had to be it. That was it." Like, she tells me this, It's like, but it didn't have the red eyes, and she's like, "Mine didn't either." I'm like, "You gotta be kidding me." So I go home, and it's funny. I tell Marie, and she's like, "Well, yeah." There wasn't a tag on it that says I'm Mothman. This isn't like Bigfoot. When you see Bigfoot, it's probably a Bigfoot. But when you see this, you're like, oh, what was it? The extra dimensional being, some kind of a strange ghost type. I don't know. I don't know what that thing was. But I will tell you this: it was not conventional. It was not an animal. Nothing moves like that. Nothing at all moves like that. And the amount of fear that was involved in it, I can't even describe to this day. But I got a pretty good idea that John knows what that fear was about, because it was like he said, it was primal fear. So I don't know, guys. I can say a wingsuit's possible, 100%. Yeah, it's possible, but not what I saw. And there's a lot of people who saw the same description that I saw as well, and where this thing just disappeared.
And let's face it. A jetpack wingsuit currently is dang near impossible to run.
It really is.
We have them. We've got them now, but it was only in the last 5 years.
Yep.
That they would fly and not explode.
Oh yeah, they're pretty much like Iron Man suits now, from what I understand.
Right.
I mean, they're pretty phenomenal. But back then, no.
Every time I think of those back then, I remember that Lost in Space episode, the old black and white Lost in Space, the original episodes, of where they used those and they flew and it was all shaky and they could go up and down and it looked like that, and of course that's all, they're not really flying them, but you go, well, they're in the future and they can't even control them very well.
Yeah, there you go, right? I mean, so, and the original thing with the Mothman was, you remember the story. They come up, in the road there in the little parking spot near the old North Power Plant, and there's this thing in the doorway, and then it stands up, and I believe the original description was it was a very bulky humanoid shape.
Yeah, it was if you talk to Jeff Wamsley, and you bring up a bunch of the original Mothman descriptions with him, because I did this when I was sculpting our original Mothman sculpt, the big one. And when I showed him mine, he said, "Yeah, no, you need more muscles." He said, "Think He-Man with wings."
Yeah, yeah. And that's kind of what they said, right? So, there's another good example of this is Mothman. Everyone thinks Mothman is black. For whatever reason, they think it's a black creature. But the original description was it was more gray. And they also go on in the original description to say those eyes were not self-illuminating, okay? They glowed by the light of the car, which means that it was eye shine. Yeah, that's what I get from it too. But yeah, I don't know, guys. I mean, Mothman's got a lot of weird stuff attached to it. I don't think we'll ever find out exactly what it is. But I think we know where it is.
What it's not.
Yeah, and we know what it's not. But there's a ton of sightings. It's another great myth is that the sightings discontinued after the Silver Bridge collapse. That is not true. They were simply not reported as much because there was such a tragedy. It was wrong for the media to sit there and focus on all, this winged creature when, all these people have just died. And everyone in that town, it's a small town. We've been there. We know this. We practically live there now. It's a very small town. Everyone knew someone on that bridge. You can go through the town and any of the old timers will tell you, yeah, they knew someone.
Most of them were related to people who were on the bridge.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a big tragedy.
It was a major tragedy, and it actually prompted the National Bridge Survey.
It really did. It really did. It was the only good thing that came out of it. But I don't like the whole tying of Mothman into it myself personally, just because I don't know. I feel weird about that. I really do. Even though, some say he was on the bridge, it still feels weird to me to equate the two. I'll see drawings and paintings with the Mothman with the bridge, and I don't know. I can't do it myself, but if you can do that, that's wonderful. That's my personal opinion. I mean, you do you, but as far as my art goes, I don't really put the two together. I might put him with our new bridge, I can do that, and I have actually, but not the old bridge. To me, it's just kind of sacred ground.
And on a future show, we will explore what we think the Mothman is.
I still don't know what it is.
But we can still cover our hypothesis. We can cover our theories. We can cover the best evidence that we have that would direct us towards coming to those theories. But that's not going to be today. So today, we've gone with the fact and fiction aspect, and we can tell you that Mothman had nothing to do with Chernobyl.
Right. Fact.
There were Mothman sightings around the Fukushima plant. They were reported by one of the engineers or one of the workers that was there. Said they saw a flying creature with red eyes. Mothman and Indrid Cold are the same creature or same being?
No.
That's a negative.
No.
That Mothman and Owlman were the same thing?
Plausible.
That's plausible.
I say
plausible.
No. Did he vacation in the UK? I say no. I don't think he was vacationing in the UK.
I think he went there.
Yeah, I don't think so either, because a lot of the Owlman, it's plausible. It could be the same kind of entity, but the Mothman that was depicted in the UK was actually kind of like short, dumpy, and
it really was
fluffy, like kind of fat, almost kind of cute when you hear him described. They're like one of those flightless parrots that's in New Zealand.
Okay.
It kind of like, because they described it as having this short, squat, fluffy like body, big wings, and big red eyes, but they all also describe the little beak with the Owlman.
Yeah.
Whereas Mothman reports didn't have that. So that's where I'm kind of with the beak and the shape of it. I say Owlman, Mothman, separate things.
I agree.
And what else did we cover tonight?
Extra dimensional things by accident, plausible, probable.
It's plausible that it could be plausible that it was the Freeburg Shrieker. Who knows?
Yeah,
yep.
Yeah. That one's really close, isn't it? What was the other one?
Chicago.
Chicago? Yep, could be. Wingsuit? No. I think we all pretty much are going to agree that that's just not what these people saw. I don't think that's
And
what they saw.
it wasn't the Rocketeer or Rocket Man or Iron Man that was out there flying one of these suits.
No.
Back in the 60s. Just
So I'm
didn't happen.
pretty sure it wasn't. No. So, what it was, we don't know. To this day, we may never know. But what we do know is the Mothman is an incredible legend. It has spawned tons and tons of stories, comic books, art, video games. The festival draws how many thousands to that little town every year? It is an amazing thing where a little town managed to embrace its weird little, it did. It embraced the tragedy and turned it into something good, didn't it? And it took this legend and turned it into this amazing economic boom for the town, which is just awesome to see. More towns,
It's a tourist attraction now.
It is.
Really
and
is.
It's such a successful event that a lot of the businesses in the area depend on the Mothman Festival now, because the sales generated during the Mothman Festival make their year.
They really do.
And honestly, we wouldn't be where we are doing what we do if it wasn't for the Mothman Festivals ourselves.
They were the first to really take us in. And
they have a museum.
It has grown.
They have a museum dedicated to it.
They have a museum.
They do.
They have a museum, and now they have the newest, which was the Point Pleasant Trading Post right across from the museum.
Hey.
Yep. And it was actually the original museum location.
It was. Yep.
Hey, guys, one thing we didn't cover.
What's that?
And I'm going to throw it out there, and I'm going to let you all just smack this one out of the park. The statue that sits in the center.
Oh, jeez. How did we not cover that statue? Joe,
I'll let you all.
you talk about the statue.
I just feed you, and you all eat.
You know you know a little bit more about the statue.
The most famous Gluteus Maximus.
Yep.
In West Virginia. The Mothman statue in Point Pleasant. That was actually based off of book cover I think it was the original book cover for the Mothman prophecies, and I can't remember the artist's name. Wayne, what was his name?
Frank Frazetta.
Yeah, Frank Frazetta. It was his original artwork, and that's what gave us this muscular butterfly creature that became the statue up there. But the sculptor of the statue was asking for actual descriptions of the creature from witnesses, but no one responded back to him. And after, I think it was 4 or 5 weeks of not getting a response from anybody, he had to base it off of the only existing artwork at the time and that was attached to the Mothman, and that was the Mothman Prophecies book by John Keel. And that's where this fantasy
changed, right? I mean,
I know. But that's where this fantasy art looking statue came from. But the most famous Gluteus Maximus in West Virginia, and also the shiniest, is
until I step foot in West Virginia, we're going to go with that.
But we'll see. We'll get pictures of that.
Hey, by the way, Frank Frazetta's art is a beautiful, beautiful.
Oh, it's amazing.
Gorgeous.
Not to take away
the colors
as much
in
as
it.
It does not represent the Mothman. I still love it.
Oh, it's amazing.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. So he could have chose worse. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he did. I think they went really well. And you can't go into that town without somebody standing in front of that statue taking a picture of themselves. There's
absolutely every time I have been there, and I used to work in the town. Every time I would drive by the statue, there would be somebody there taking a picture with it. And if you're feeling froggy and you want to see what's going on right now, you can go to the Mothman Museum's website. They actually have a 24-hour webcam on the statue, so that way you can see it anytime you want.
Yeah, it's pretty comical for like some of the holidays. They'll put some little things on him. I think he had
Santa Claus
yeah,
hats
Santa
and
Claus
Easter bunny
hat.
ears.
Yeah, he had a leprechaun hat for St. Patrick's Day. But they always do these fun little things. And if you've never been to the festival, you are missing out. Let's just say that.
But
The
They
festival is one of the largest street festivals anywhere that I've been to,
It's
and
fun.
it is probably one of the most entertaining. It
It,
draws food vendors from all over the East Coast. So if
yeah.
you're a foodie, you want to come to the Mothman Festival. If you're interested in cryptozoology, you want to come to the Mothman Festival. You want to know who's been making a major appearance at the last few Mothman festivals? Bigfoot researchers. So if
Yeah.
you're into Bigfoot research, get to the Mothman Festival. It really is this melting pot of cryptozoology now that has become such like it's almost like a cryptozoological mecca.
It really is. It's so much fun. The closest thing you could really compare it to would probably be something like, out at Roswell. I mean, it is a massive event where the whole town just gets together, has this big party, and everyone's invited. Come on down, and and it's amazing to watch. It really is. And of course, we're
and
there, so
this year
you can
will be
drop
my
by.
first
Yes.
time. So
And Wayne will
And
be
it's
with
going to be
us.
awesome.
I
So it'll
can't
be a
wait.
lot of fun. We're looking forward to it for sure. But yeah, I mean, Mothman to me always had a soft spot for Mothman. So, there's that.
Well,
So
guys, you might not have got your Mothman fill tonight, but believe me, from Wild and Weird West Virginia, there is always going to be something mothy that will pop out somewhere,
that's
sometime.
true. That's true. We'll be talking about Mothman a lot, I'm sure.
So in the meantime, remember, stay wild and weird, and tune in next week when we take another deep dive into the unknown. Until then, stay wild and weird, everybody.